I'm Daniel, 32M. My fiancée Laura, 30F, and I are supposed to get married in 3 weeks. Venue paid, suits fitted, my mother finally learned how to say, fondant, and our engagement photos make us look like we actually sleep 8 hours. Enter Victoria, Laura's mother. If charm were a blade, hers would be a scalpel. She smiles like a hostess and slices like a surgeon. I always knew she didn't love me, but I thought we were in "I roll at holidays" territory. I was wrong. We're in "quiet war" territory. It started with the florist calling me at 12:41 a.m. "Hi, Daniel. I'm so sorry, but we need to confirm your cancellation for the peonies." I told her we hadn't cancelled anything. She cleared her throat, embarrassed. Your mother-in-law-to-be phoned, said there was a domestic situation and the bride needed out. She cried. The florist had already refunded the deposit to a card that wasn't ours. By 7:15 a.m., an anonymous email hit my boss's inbox. Concerned citizen attached screenshots of me supposedly sexting Madison, 23 winking face. The writing sounded like a teenager improved it after a true crime binge. My name in the header was miscapitalized, the timestamp used a 12-hour clock while my phone's set to 24-hour, and the notification icons were 2 iOS versions old. I didn't sleep. My boss called me in. I brought my phone backups and the raw PNGs, the EXIF data on the screenshots was scrubbed, classic export from photo editor smear. He let me go with a tight smile, the kind that says, I believe you, but I can't unknow this. When I told Laura, she went pale and then furious. She wouldn't. Then, quieter, she might. We agreed, no blow-ups, no dramatic confrontations. We'd document everything and keep the wedding on track. 2 nights later, the venue emailed that our designated contact had switched to Victoria. She'd approved a table reduction to save costs and asked to seat my divorced parents together to force healing. I called the venue manager and had them revert control to us, password protected. That same week, the ring vanished. Not the insurance appraisal, the ring. Laura's hands shook while we pulled every drawer in the apartment. She cried, she wouldn't break in. I didn't answer. We checked the keypad logs for our door. There it was, a failed code attempt at 2:18 a.m. Then a correct entry at 2:21. I changed the code and added a doorbell camera. Petty? Maybe. Necessary? Absolutely. 3 days later, at 2:23 a.m., the camera pinged while we slept. I watched it in the morning, heart pounding. The footage showed a figure in a camel coat at our porch. Victoria. She looked straight into the lens without seeing it, then crouched. She placed a torn piece of Laura's veil on the mat and slid a note under the door, you can still save yourself. Bruises heal, reputations don't. She lifted her sleeve and pressed her arm against the corner of our planter, wincing. Then she stepped back, checked the bruise, and took a photo. She left like she'd never been there. When I showed Laura, she sank to the floor. Her hands were in her hair, and she kept whispering, why? Why? Because the lies were stacking into a structure, one accusation at a time, until it would look like I'd built it. I started collecting. I pulled headers from the anonymous emails, originating at 3:02 a.m. from a masked relay, but the originating IP matched the same suburb where Victoria lives. I recorded phone calls with vendors who suddenly had deposit errors, and each time they said the same thing, a trembling woman had called at night, she sounded scared. I exported the venue change requests and captured the login IP. I filed a police report for trespass and evidence tampering and tucked the case number into a folder. Then a cousin of Laura's, accidentally, sent a family group chat message meant for someone else, V says he's controlling. She has proof. Wait for the rehearsal. Laura stared at her phone like it was a snake. Last night, Victoria arrived for coffee with immaculate concealer and a story. She pushed up her sleeve to show a fading bruise. He grabbed me, she said to Laura, eyes shining. I begged him to stop. He said I'm ruining his life. She tilted her chin at me, daring me to deny it. I didn't argue. I put my phone on the table and hit play. The porch video filled the room. The torn veil. The planted note. The plantar bruise. Laura covered her mouth. Victoria didn't blink. She watched herself falsify a bruise like it was a cooking tutorial, then she sniffed and said, perfectly calm, you shouldn't have cameras. That's an invasion of privacy. I don't know what kind of mother sees her daughter's wedding as a battlefield, but that's where we are. Vendors sabotaged. Boss warned. Family split. And the person orchestrating it all sipping tea at our table, scolding us for having evidence. I'm not canceling anything. Not yet. I'm going to keep building the file until it's a wall she can't climb. And when she tries to perform a collapse in front of a crowd, because people like her always need a stage, I won't beg. I won't shout. I'll press play. 2 days after my first post, the florist called again, this time mortified. She played me a saved voicemail from 12:38 a.m. Victoria whispered crying that she was terrified for Laura's safety, begging for a refund before he empties their accounts. The florist said she refunded to the same card that paid the deposit. It wasn't ours. She forwarded the refund receipt with the last 4 digits and the cardholder name, V.H. I recorded our call and filed it. I started a system. Every vendor got, 1. A secret passphrase only Laura or I would know, 2. A note on our file saying no changes without that phrase, 3. Written confirmation of any previous cancellations. That alone flushed out 3 more hits. The DJ admitted he'd been offered cash to bow out quietly by a concerned relative. He sent me a voice memo of the caller, a clipped, polished voice saying, "You'll be paid regardless, just don't show and I'll handle the fallout." It's Victoria. No doubt. Work got worse. HR looped me into a well-being meeting after the second anonymous email, more forged screenshots, now of bank apps, proving I had gambling debts. The UI was wrong, names misspelled, Daniel, and the metadata on the PNGs showed they'd been exported from a collage app. I asked IT to check the mail headers, the relay pointed to a local IP range. Not definitive, but it narrowed the circle. I requested the emails be preserved for potential legal action. HR nodded, neutral. I walked out feeling like a man with clean hands and permanent ink on them. Family group chat turned into a courtroom. Laura's aunt posted proof from Victoria, messages where I supposedly texted, "I'll make sure you never see your daughter again if you don't pay me back." The timestamps were 3:07 a.m. My phone shows a do not disturb schedule and a security camera notification from that exact minute, Victoria walking past our porch. I dropped the porch video, the veil, the note, the plantar bruise, into the chat with a short caption, context. Silence. Then Victoria wrote, "Abusers love cameras." A cousin responded with a single, "Yikes," and left the chat. Laura's face keeps changing shape, anger, confusion, then a guilt I can't place. She watched every clip, every receipt, every header. She said, barely audible, she knows how to make me believe her. Then her phone pinged. A new message from a private number, "He's feeding you doctored videos. Trust me, baby." Victoria calls her own daughter, baby, like she's locking a handcuff. The ring, found. But not by us. The jeweler called to confirm our request to resize down a half. I asked who brought it in. He said, "Your mother-in-law." She said it slips when Laura's scared. I asked for a hold, then drove there with Laura. The jeweler handed over the envelope, inside was our ring and a pink sticky note, tighter. She might lose it. I had him copy the intake form, Victoria's signature, date, and a note, rush, wedding in jeopardy. Laura stood there shaking, the ring cold in her palm. Vendor's password, ring reclaimed, I pushed further. I called the venue manager and asked for access logs. He sent a CSV, the designated contact change, the table reductions, and the seating swap were all submitted through a guest link from the same two IP addresses, one matching Victoria's home Wi-Fi, the other a coffee shop near her salon. I saved everything in a folder I named Spine because if I don't laugh, I scream. Then I baited a trap. I created 3 fake, internal notes, in separate emails to vendors, notes I never sent, drafts only. Each had a unique tell, one said our new passphrase was Blue Hour, another referenced a non-existent cousin named Tessa, and the third changed our ceremony start time to 4:17. Within 24 hours, the florist got a midnight call asking to confirm Blue Hour. The venue received a message from an aunt insisting Tessa needed a gluten-free entree. And the DJ got a frantic voicemail, they moved it to 4:17, why aren't you updated? I didn't blink when I heard the voice. Victoria again. She's reading my drafts she somehow obtained. The only way in is through someone forwarding, or she has Laura's email. Laura swears she doesn't share, I changed her password anyway, enabled 2FA, then set a rule to forward any hit on Blue Hour, Tessa, for 17 to my archive. It pinged at 3:06 a.m., forwarded to a burner address with Victoria in the string. The legal letters started. A courier dropped a thick envelope from an attorney, representing Ms. H. Cease and desist for defamation, plus a veiled threat, if we proceed with a ceremony under false pretenses, they'll seek an injunction. My own lawyer, retained the minute the HR emails landed, read it, sighed, and drafted a response with exhibits, the porch footage, vendor voicemails, refund receipts, access logs, ring intake form. He also filed a trespass complaint referencing the 2:23 a.m. visit and started a harassment paper trail. He called it preparing the runway. I thought I'd seen her worst until last night. We were doing the final tasting at the venue when a woman walked in, late 20s, glossy hair, wide eyes rehearsed for pity. She stopped at our table and said, loudly, Daniel. We should talk. The room went still. Laura's fork froze. The woman introduced herself as Madison. We had a relationship, she told Laura. He promised. I didn't let her finish. I pulled out my phone, opened a thread labeled Madison, burner, and hit play on a recording from that afternoon, Madison negotiating with Victoria over $700 and an Uber. Victoria, you just have to show up and look sorry. I'll do the rest. Madison, and you'll send the other half after I say the thing. Victoria, you'll get it at the rehearsal. The room went from still to brittle. The maitre d' stepped forward, ready to eject. Madison's face drained, then she hissed, she said you'd fold. She left, heels biting the carpet. Laura didn't speak for a long time. When she did, it was to ask the coordinator, without looking at me, can you remove my mother from the guest list and flag security? Her voice trembled, but it was the steadiest sentence I've heard in weeks. Back home, our doorbell chimed at 2:23 a.m. again. No person. Just an envelope on the mat. Inside, a photocopy of a police report template with blanks filled in by hand, my name, accusations of emotional abuse, a box checked, weapons in home. No case number, no officer name. A prop. On the back, in Victoria's looping script, you can still walk away. I put it in Spine, then added a new tab labeled rehearsal. I don't care how many props Victoria ships to our door, I'm done playing on her stage. There will be no scene I'm not ready for, and no microphone she controls. The morning of the rehearsal started with a knock that sounded like judgment. A courier on my porch, manila envelope in his hand like a verdict. Emergency motion to enjoin ceremony. Filed by, counsel for Ms. Victoria H. Affidavit attached, I was volatile, financially coercive, and arming the home. She'd checked every scary box she could find. Hearing at noon. My lawyer met me at the courthouse lobby holding a black binder I recognized immediately, spine, but printed, tabbed, heavy enough to bruise. He slipped a thumb drive into his pocket and whispered, "Breathe. We're walking in with receipts." Victoria arrived 10 minutes late in a cream suit and sunglasses, like a daytime talk show segment about survivors. She dabbed at dry eyes while her attorney used words like urgent, safety, public interest. Our turn. My lawyer didn't raise his voice. He just turned pages. Doorbell video, 2:23 a.m. The veil shred, the planted note, the planter bruise. Florist voicemail, midnight sob story, refund to VH, venue access logs, IP addresses from her Wi-Fi and a cafe near her salon. Jeweler intake form, her signature on the ring, resize. Audio, Madison negotiating $700 with Victoria for the rehearsal. Email headers tracing, concerned citizen, through a masked relay originating in her suburb. The judge's mouth tightened at the gas can pace of it. He denied her motion in 2 sentences, then added a third I wasn't expecting. Any further interference with contracted vendors or trespass at petitioner's residence will be referred for criminal review. He turned to her attorney. Advise your client accordingly. Victoria didn't flinch. She smiled at me as we left, a smile with too many teeth. By 3 p.m. an inspector from the fire marshal's office arrived at the venue for an anonymous complaint about exposed wiring and unsafe capacity. The coordinator met him with permits, occupancy charts, and a printed copy of the complaint email, another anonymous relay with the same punctuation ticks from the HR messages. He did a quick walk, signed off, and muttered, "People treat us like referees in family feuds." The coordinator put 2 guards at the doors and gave them a photo of Victoria. At 5:30, rehearsal guests trickled in. Every vendor checked the passphrase. The DJ smiled when I said, "Blue Hour," and tapped his mic twice. Laura stood beside me, steady as a phone on a tripod, face pale but set. People hugged her and then did that chin lift at me that says we're reserving judgment. At 6:12, a woman in a floral dress tried to check in under Aunt Janice. The guard asked for ID. She pivoted to tears in 2 seconds flat. "He won't let me see my daughter." Security walked her back outside gently. It wasn't Janice. It was Victoria's friend from pickleball. We recognized her car. We made it through the aisle walk, the timing cues, the corny joke the officiant insists on keeping. Then the doors at the back opened, and Victoria came in anyway, past the "no admittance," past the coordinator, past the guard who almost tripped over her performance. She was already crying. "I can't let my baby make a mistake," she announced to the room, palms up, the martyr and the spotlight in one person. People turned. Phones came out, the new stained glass of any public scene. She launched into it. I had a temper, secret debts, a girl named Madison, a gun safe. She lifted her sleeve for sympathy and it betrayed her, faint square imprint of a planter corner, yellowing where the bruise had been made. Laura didn't look at me. She walked to the sound booth, asked the DJ for the cord, and plugged in her phone. No speech. No pleading. She hit play. The room watched Victoria bruise herself at 2:23 a.m. The veil shred. The note. The check of the camera she didn't see. Then the jeweler's form on the projector, the florist refund receipt, the venue logs, the audio, "You'll get the other half after you say the thing." At the rehearsal. It wasn't a movie. There was no swell of strings. Just a silence that made my ears ring. Someone, Laura's aunt, said, very quietly, "Vicky, what are you doing?" Another relative slid their phone into a pocket like it suddenly weighed too much. The officiant took a half step in front of us without realizing it, reflexive as a seatbelt. Victoria's face went through 5 expressions I couldn't name. Then she changed tactics in an instant, voice calm, almost bored. "These are doctored. He's tech-savvy. You're being manipulated, Laura." She said, manipulated, like it was a term of endearment. She took a step toward us. Security put up a hand. She laughed, a sharp metallic thing. Really? At your own rehearsal you're throwing your mother out? Laura surprised me. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She said, "You're not invited," and nodded at the guard. The finality of it was so complete the room exhaled. Outside, through the glass, we watched her stage another scene for the parking lot, hands on her face, staggered steps, a glance to check who was watching. When no one followed, she straightened, slid her sunglasses on, and walked to her car like she was late for Pilates. Inside, people reset their faces into something like normal. The coordinator clapped softly, too brightly. Okay. Back to the top. A joke landed. Barely. After guests drifted out, we sat alone in the dim ballroom. The candles looked like little operating lights. Laura turned her ring around and around. "I believe my eyes," she said. "I just don't know how to be a daughter without believing her." "I can't marry into a war," I said. "Not one that walks through our front door at 2:23 a.m. She stared at the dark windows. "What's the line?" I opened Spine on the table and slid her a page my lawyer had prepared: no contact addendum, pre-drafted notice to vendors, security brief for the day, list of numbers to call if Victoria appeared, copy of the judge's denial, and a simple statement: any interference will be treated as trespass and harassment, no exceptions for family. Laura read every word. Then she signed the top copy with a hand that only shook once. We delivered 3 envelopes on the way home: venue, DJ, coordinator. At our door, another envelope waited on the mat like a stray. "No handwriting this time," typed. Inside, a single printed line. "You can still walk away. Or I can make you." Laura looked at me. "We move the ceremony time. We lock the guest list. We give security names." She swallowed. "And we get married without her." I didn't say anything. I just set the new passphrase in the vendor portal and, for the first time in weeks, felt the floor hold. I woke to pounding at 5:11 a.m. Not the poetic kind, the badge and flashlight kind. 2 officers on our doorstep for a welfare check after an anonymous report of screaming and a threat with a weapon. We don't even own one. I handed them the judge's denial from yesterday, the trespass complaint number, and the doorbell logs showing a quiet night, then watched the realization settle on their faces. One officer sighed and said, "We'll note the caller." Again. I added the incident number to Spine. By 7:20, the venue coordinator texted, "Heads up, someone tried to pick up the bouquets." The florist asked for our passphrase, the caller hung up. 10 minutes later, the officiant forwarded a screenshot of a message offering $1,000 to withdraw for the bride's safety, no questions. The number matched one of Victoria's relays. The officiant replied with a single sentence that made me like him more than any sermon ever could: "See you at 3. At the salon, Laura's stylist was, mysteriously, double-booked. The appointment confirmation email had been edited: same address, wrong suite, wrong time by exactly 17 minutes, hi, Victoria. The coordinator rerouted hair and makeup to a backup room at the venue and met us curbside with coffee and a look I will never forget: tight, steady, utterly unamused. Laura didn't say much. The silence between us was like gauze, soft, suffocating, necessary. At 9:03, Laura's father knocked on my prep room door like a man with a confession to make. He looked older than he did yesterday. He put a USB on the table and said, without sitting, I was wrong to protect her. On the drive over, he dug through an old cloud backup and found a voice memo from years ago: Victoria coaching someone, "You have to start crying before you speak. If you tell it flat, they'll side with him." The timestamp is from Laura's college graduation weekend, a family blow-up we've only ever heard one version of. I asked if he wanted to be in the room when we listened. He shook his head. No. I already know how it ends. He left. I put the memo in spine and tried not to be sick. At 10:26, security intercepted a process server at the loading dock with a stack of papers titled Protective Order. No case number, no judge, no file stamp, just blanks filled in with our names and the same looping script from the prop report in our last envelope. He said he was doing a favor. The coordinator did hers and escorted him to the sidewalk. By noon, the petty sabotage gave way to theater. The fire alarm chirped, just enough to make everyone glance up, then died. The DJ's laptop reported a remote login attempt, then the system locked, then our IT friend, gift of the coordinator, hardwired him and killed the Wi-Fi. Someone called the venue pretending to be me to move the ceremony to the front lawn. Passphrase stopped it. Every 20 minutes, a new knock, a new note, a new little cut that didn't bleed because we'd already bandaged the whole body. Laura's phone buzzed with relatives yo-yoing, "We love you both, / we're praying you come to your senses. / your mother is beside herself." The group chat split down the middle like a zipper tearing. At 1:07, the jeweler emailed security cam stills of Victoria arriving last week with our ring and leaving alone, insurance, in case she tried to reinvent that, too. At 1:23, my boss texted, "HR closed the anonymous case. Document retention hold in place if you need it. Go get married." I didn't realize I'd been bracing for the other shoe until I saw it hanging, idle, in the air. The first look was supposed to be by the staircase. We moved it to a staff hallway, a practical corridor with a gray fire door and an exit sign that hummed. When Laura came around the corner, time did the thing it does in commercials, elastic, glossier than skin. Her hands were steady. Mine weren't. She touched my lapel like she was testing the reality of fabric. "No contact," she said, and I nodded. She added, "If she tries anything inside the room, I walk out the other door and we start again somewhere she can't reach." There was no romance in it. Just logistics. Just love in the form of a plan. 2 minutes later, a shout echoed up from the lobby. Not a scream. Something practiced. Victoria's voice has a bell to it when she performs, ringing, expensive, designed for attention. Security told me later she walked in past a guest, dropped to her knees, and said, loudly enough to draw half the room, "I cannot watch my daughter marry a dangerous man." She pulled up her sleeve. Today's bruise was purple, artfully untidy. The crowd parted the way crowds always do around trouble, halfway curiosity, halfway hunger. The coordinator got to her first. "Ma'am, you're not on the list." "She's my daughter," Victoria said, finding the volume that lives between grievance and gospel. Laura's father stood behind the coordinator and did nothing, which may be the bravest thing I've seen him do. From the balcony, I could see relatives calculating optics, who stands where, who looks shocked, who films. A cousin raised her phone and then lowered it, as if the weight of it finally registered. Security asked Victoria to leave. She pivoted to the cameras. "I'm begging you all to understand," she said, palms up to the room. "He's manipulated everything. The videos are fake. The vendors are complicit. This is coercion." She waited for the amen that didn't come. I don't know how she saw me on the landing, but she did. Our eyes locked, and in a snap the tears vanished. Her face went flat, almost bored. She mouthed, "Walk away," like a curse. I didn't go down. I didn't make a speech. I didn't turn our wedding into her stage. Instead, I sent the coordinator a text, "Play Exhibit 12 in the lobby." No sound. Captions only. Exhibit 12 is the porch video, the veil, the note, the bruise, time code burned in the corner, subtitled by my lawyer so even the most theatrical hearing couldn't argue context. They wheeled a monitor to the edge of the lobby carpet and pressed play. People watched. Not a movie. No strings. Just a loop of a woman caught by a lens too patient to be fooled. The room didn't gasp. It sagged. Something in the collective posture changed, a little grief, a little embarrassment, a lot of clarity. Victoria stared at herself creating a bruise and, for the first time since this started, I saw something like fury crack into something like fear. She looked around the room for a friendly face and found only neutral ones. Security stepped closer. She stood, smoothed her skirt, and said to no one, "You will regret this," the threat so small it sounded like a habit. They walked her out. Laura and I didn't high-five or cry. We walked to the staff hallway, took 3 breaths, and checked our list like pilots. Passphrase active, doors covered, officiant present, exit plan ready. Love as logistics. Vows as refusal to be dragged into someone else's performance. We lined up. The music cue hit. The doors opened. And for the first 10 steps, it was quiet enough to hear the truth land. We cut the guest list to the bone overnight. Anyone who'd forwarded Victoria's rumors came off the seating chart. Security kept the passphrase. The coordinator moved backup chairs into a smaller ballroom and taped a floor plan to the wall like a command center. Love as logistics. 30 minutes before the ceremony, the lights flickered. The DJ went hardwired, again, the coordinator checked the breaker, and security radioed. A woman outside had yanked the exterior power panel and run. They had her on camera, sunglasses, cream suit. When the officers arrived, they already had yesterday's judge's warning in the report. I didn't go outside. I signed a trespass affidavit and went back to the hallway where Laura stood with her bouquet like a pilot with a checklist. At 2:51 p.m. a courier tried to deliver a temporary restraining order to the officiant. Same prop formatting as yesterday, still no file stamp. The coordinator handed him a copy of the real court denial and a very tired smile. He left fast, like a man who'd realized he was in the wrong movie. The doors opened at 3. Laura walked in on her father's arm. He kept his eyes straight ahead and didn't look back. The aisle felt like a narrow bridge over a loud river. People stared the way people do when they're choosing who they will be afterward. I kept my eyes on Laura. She kept hers on me. We made it to the vows without a single interruption. Then the lobby speakers crackled alive. Someone had patched into an auxiliary input and started a recorded monologue, her voice pitched to break glass. "This marriage is a fraud. He is dangerous. I am begging you." The sound died mid-syllable. Our IT friend pulled the cable and lifted it like a diffused fuse. The coordinator glanced at me. "Keep going." I nodded. The officiant skipped his joke. He asked, very simply, "Do you both enter this marriage without coercion?" Laura answered first. "Yes." Then she turned to the room. "And without my mother?" Her voice didn't wobble. I said, "Yes," and it felt like a border closing. We traded rings. The jeweler had soldered a tiny hallmark inside Laura's band this morning and emailed a time-stamped photo for spine. The kiss was gentle, almost private. Applause came a beat late, then gathered like a weather front. In the photos afterward, you can see security escorting someone small and rigid past the glass doors. You can't hear her. You can see the officers speak to her, watch her gesture at the building, see her try to push past, and then the moment her shoulders loosen as the reality settles, no audience, no stage. We kept the reception short. No bouquet toss, no speeches. The coordinator played quiet tracks and dimmed the uplights to something kind. Guests came up one by one with the confessions people make when a performance ends. "We should have asked for your side, / I'm sorry I believed screenshots. / we love you both." We nodded. "We're accepting apologies on layaway." Laura and I signed the no-contact letters for vendors and family at the sweetheart table between 2 candles. My lawyer scanned them from his phone, filed the harassment complaint addendum, and sent a final packet to the relatives who still wanted both sides. It wasn't a hit piece. Just links, timestamps, and the one sentence that matters: no contact means no contact. We left through the kitchen, not the lobby. The staff clapped quietly like we'd completed a shift. In the alley behind the venue, a light rain started. Laura leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "I pick us." It didn't sound defiant. It sounded like relief. Back home, at 2:23 a.m., the doorbell chimed. Nothing on the porch. Just habit in the wiring of our nerves. I opened Spine, added the day's incident numbers, and closed it for the first time without adding a contingency plan. This is the part in Reddit posts where people ask if we cancelled. We didn't. We married with the doors watched, the Wi-Fi unplugged, and the truth on a loop for anyone who needed it. Tomorrow we change our numbers, lock down our emails, and let attorneys do the talking. Family who want access will sign a boundary they can't edit. Vows aren't poetry for us. They're policy. And policy kept her out of the room.